What are you doing?
I'm getting rid of the evidence. Do you have a lighter?
Welcome to another episode of Our Haunted Travels with your hosts, Sean and Marianne Borden.
Well, hello, parapeeps, and welcome to another episode of Our Haunted Travels. I am your host, Sean Donnelly.
And I'm your co-host, Marianne Donnelly.
That's right, we got another Lizzie Borden video for you. We're coming to the end. We've got a few more. And goodbye, Lizzie.
Don't worry, we'll come back another time someday in the future when we go back and visit again.
Yeah. All right, so anyways, in this video, we are talking about some of the papers that either never existed or were destroyed or
maybe just never found.
Never found. So I'm sure some of this stuff you've never heard about. So if you've been following along in our Lizzie, we have quite a few videos out there about the Lizzie Borden case and the hauntings and all that other stuff. But I'm going to put a link to that playlist right here. Ding! And you can actually go and get caught up if you missed any of them.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just quickly figured out, but by the time we're done, we're going to have about 25 videos related to video about Lizzie, you know, but people like Lizzie Borden, we pushed it another week. So.
That's right.
All right, you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right, so the first thing we want to talk about is the note.
The infamous note. So basically, we know that when Mr. Borden came home the day of the murders, he inquired about where Mrs. Borden was, and Lizzie, told him, oh, she had a note from a sick friend, and she went to visit them. And he seemed okay with that, and went about his day, well, what was left of it.
So that must have been a common thing. Somebody sent her notes.
Well, that's one of the questions. Apparently she wasn't like really close friends with very many people. So who would she have gotten this note from? Also, this note was never found. It was never seen.
So
no,
I think
the police asked about it. Lizzie was not able to produce it. She said she doesn't know where it is.
So didn't he ask where her mother was? Where's your mother?
Well, I don't know if he asked where your mother is or where Mrs. Borden is, but he did inquire as to Abby's
And Lizzie
whereabouts.
said there was a note that she was,
Yes, she was called away to help a sick friend.
But the note was never found.
It was not. Now, there is some question about whether this note could be tied to some of the other things that we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to hold off here, and I'll come back to it.
Okay.
That's the one that you guys may actually have known about, was hearing, oh, well, she was supposedly called away with a note, and it was never found. And even the police inquired for it, and it was never produced.
Okay, the next thing on the list, Andrew Borden's will. We've already mentioned that a couple times in some of these other videos.
Yeah, there's question as to whether he had a will or not, and what it said. Some people say that it was that he did have a will, and then it was in his will that, Lizzie and Emma were not to get as much of his inheritance as they had wanted, or that it specified that Abby was permitted to have certain estates, things like that. And that that may have been a reason why it was never found, was it was destroyed because the killer did not like what was in it.
Yeah, well, they said, he had one, but they couldn't find it.
And it seems very interesting whether he had it or didn't have it. But if he had one, why did his lawyer, Mr. Jennings, not have a copy of it? Today, lawyers have copies of your will, right? So why is it that Andrew Jennings did not seem to have a copy? The family lawyer did not seem to have a copy.
That's pretty interesting. And didn't he mean Andrew?
Andrew Borden or Andrew Jennings?
Andrew Borden.
Andrew Borden,
The day of or the day before was seen carrying papers?
The day of, he was seen carrying papers. Yes. Okay. Yes, supposedly carrying papers on his way back to the house right before he died.
Wonder if that was the will.
Possibly. It could also be something that that's on
Something
the
that
list.
we're going to talk about here next. All right, so the next thing is the deed to the Swansea
Farm. Now, this is the one that ties all three of those together. The Swansea Farm deed, the will, and, of course, the note, the infamous note to Abby. So one of the theories is that Andrew Borden was in the process of transferring the deed for the Swansea Farm over to Abby, which some people say, what, was he stupid? He didn't learn the first time when he did that 5 years ago that this was a problem for his daughters?
Yeah.
On the other hand, it was looked at as he was transferring this over so that in case anything happened to him, he was getting older.
Yeah, I was 69.
So he's getting older. He wanted Abby to be taken care of because he knew his daughters didn't really like her very much.
Didn't have to waste all that money on inheritance tax. That nonsense.
Yeah, so he was going to make sure that Abby had a place to live. And then there's another theory that said that, Uncle John Morse,
Old Uncle John
he
Morse.
wanted to live in the Swansea Farm. He was actually supposedly there to go over some information about that. In fact, one of his nieces that he was supposedly visiting at the time of the murders, he intended for that niece to actually be his maid, basically caretaker at the house, to take care of him, feed him, clean his clothes, cook for him, that kind of thing. And so there's a question as to whether or not the Swansea deed was part of the papers that Andrew had the day that he was coming home and was then murdered.
And he signed it over.
It's also a possibility that that's why he did not think anything was weird when this note supposedly came for his wife to go and visit a sick friend. He didn't think twice about it, didn't think it odd, because he thought maybe it had to do with going and signing the official paperwork, and that was to be kept secret from the girls.
It could have been a code word or something like that. Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the idea that Uncle John Morse and Abby would be living in the Swansea house together after Andrew died, because he was unmarried, or he was I don't know, I don't think he was unmarried, but she was unmarried, and he would be able to he had to be unmarried, that's why his niece was going to take care of him. So he was going to potentially live there. They got along well enough that they could share the estate and wouldn't be a big deal. He would take care of, taking care of the land and whatnot, and Abby would have a place to live. But supposedly Andrew was trying to sell it to Abby or give it to Abby without Uncle John's knowledge before he got there.
So the interesting thing about all of these documents, they don't exist.
We can't seem to find them anywhere.
Nobody can find them. However, there was a report of papers being burnt
on the stove in the kitchen the day of the murders.
Day of the murders. And who was doing that burning?
Surprisingly, not Lizzie. No, it was in fact Dr. Bowen who was seen burning papers in the kitchen on the day of the murder.
And one of them
had the name Emma written on it.
Boom, boom, boom.
So the question becomes, was this just, some scribbles that he was writing down when he was going to send a telegram to Emma to come? Or did he kind of rip that up and say, I don't need this anymore? Was this something else? And in fact, at the same time that this little scrap of paper that had Emma written on it was being burned, it was also noticed that there was something else that was already previously burning in there, and it was rolled up in scroll form. What was that? Could that have been the will? Could that have been the Swansea papers? Could it have been this famous note that took Abby away from the house that day? Who knows? And why was Dr. Bowen burning it in the first place? He said
he was burning his own garbage.
He said, I'm just burning something about my daughter and things like that. Why was he doing that at the Borden's house? Why didn't he do it at his own house?
Especially when he lived right across the street.
Right across the street. And why would you be burning it the day of murders while you're waiting there with police coming and going and so forth? It just seems very odd.
In the house with crime scenes. I'm going to burn some of my trash.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
these papers are
Quite interesting
definitely
stuff.
interesting and definitely oddities. And if only they were really here, what would they say? What would they tell us?
So, folks, if you heard anything new or learned something in this video, please leave it down in the comments and let us know. If you heard this stuff before, say, I heard that. Either way, leave us a comment.
That's right.
Smash that thumbs up, the routine.
Yeah. And hey, if you happen to find these documents.
Oh, let her know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me know before you tell the Historical Society.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Nope, that sounds about right.
Alrighty. Hey, till next time.
Thanks for watching.
And happy hunting.
Let us know if you like this video by hitting that thumbs up. Also, if you'd like to see more videos from us in the future, support our channel by hitting that subscribe button and dinging that bell so you get notified the next time there's a video from Panic D Videos.
Thanks for watching.
Happy hunting!